When we truly understand that we're part of something that's greater than ourselves, and that each and every one of our lives has the power to bring about positive change just by being us, that ripples out. You being you is all that's required.
From To Be Magnetic, this is the Expanded Podcast with your host, Lacey Phillips. As the leading destination for neural manifestation, we dispel the woo-woo in order to help you create real, tangible results based on neuroplasticity, psychology, epigenetics, and energetics. Our goal is to normalize the practice of manifestation and empower you to get into the driver's seat of your life in order to manifest the experiences, relationships, and things that most align with your authenticity. Part of our manifestation process entails expanding past your limiting subconscious beliefs. Therefore, by tuning into this podcast with interviews from experts, thought leaders, spiritual teachers, scientists, and those with neural manifestation success stories, you're starting the process of expanding your subconscious in order to see to believe that anything you desire is possible. And by pressing play, the process begins.
Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Expanded. I am so excited for today's episode, and it is perfectly timed with the kickoff of a new month. We have on Natalie Miles. She is a channeler for the collective, a psychic medium, a writer, a speaker, a host of top spiritual podcasts, The Doorway, and So You Think You're Intuitive. And we've had Natalie on in the past and very early episodes on Expanded, and so excited to have her back on again. She truly is so talented and powerful at her craft and what she does. And what I think is really interesting is whenever we're going through this journey, it can feel a lot like a solo story. You know, we're unblocking and expanding, all of these things, manifesting. But it's really when we kind of zoom out and notice our patterning, our themes that are coming up oftentimes correlate to a lot of other people in the collective. And that's why understanding the energetics of the collective, and when I say collective, I'm saying the world and the earth at large. When we understand the energetics of that, we can see how our individual story plays out within that larger story. And Natalie really dives into what has come up this summer, what have we faced, and what are we kind of looking at towards the future. Not in a way of future projecting or fear-mongering about anything in the future, but really just like, okay, if this were to be the case, and if this were to occur, how can I both accept and not lose my inner sense of grounding? I know me personally right now, it feels like this time of almost magic dark energy, not in the sense that manifestations are not coming through, because they are, but it's almost like an internal magic dark. I'm shifting into my next version of self. I already see her, I feel her, I'm embodying her, but there's almost like a whole nother layer of new me, authentic me, that's being asked to present, and that version is getting close to just dropping in fully. And I think right now it's about removing any of those things that are not in alignment or we're holding on to from the past that are no longer serving us. I mean, especially everyone who's gone through the unblocking challenge, I'm sure you've gone through and delegated and detox aspects of your life. And I think there's sort of a just energetic shedding of like, what is no longer working because I'm a different person now. And I think we're all kind of looking at that and how we can align more authentically to our true selves and show up authentically. And it's so important to do that monthly check-in. That inventory of where you're at is so important for your manifestation process and building your trust muscle. Stay tuned because we have an incredible launch coming in October that is going to dive into that exact thing. So it's going to be a really good episode. There's so much covered in there. She does a live reading. I ask her some personal questions. You guys can hear my insights going on. And even since I recorded with Natalie, I've started taking my aligned action in accordance with her, and it's been really, really cool. Natalie also teaches us that every single person is intuitive and that we can tap into it at any moment. And she gives some very practical tips on what is our intuition, what is fear, and how we can start tapping into our intuition and even our ancestral knowledge now, even if we don't have access to our ancestors. And as always, whenever we have someone on giving thoughts or advice in the future, take what resonates to you and run with it. And anything else, maybe it's not aligned for you right now, and that's okay. But I would try to see the threads in which things do resonate with you and see how you could take those threads even deeper. So I know you guys will enjoy this one and can't wait for you to listen.
And now, a word from our partners.
I wanted to share one of my new favorite products from Bond Charge, who recently rebranded from Blue Blocks, a company that you've heard us talk about many times, who covers all of your wellness and lifestyle products for the modern world. So you've heard Lacey and I actually talk about this in previous episodes, but I'm obsessed with their ice roller. And here's why. There's so many functions for this little device. It's a little roller that you put in the freezer, and then whenever you want to use it, just pull it out. You can use it on your face, your skin, etc., and then pop it back in the freezer. But here's the way that I use it that I think is just game changer, and I feel like I'm at the spot every single time. So if you are someone who ever does your own facial massage, or you feel your face get puffy, your skin get puffy, puffiness under your eyes, maybe you use that ancient technique of the gua sha. One of the things I used to do with all of that is I would put my stones or anything I would use on my face in the freezer to make them cold. But the thing is, they would lose their chilliness within seconds. The more my hand would touch it, the more it would start to warm up. And so this ice roller completely fixes that problem because it stays freezing cold the entire time you're using it. And you can just use it lightly along your face to help depuff, move the lymph around, really get your skin tightening, firming, glowing, bring circulation to your face. It's like a whole facial just in one little roller. And the other thing that's so cool about it is I like to use it if I have a headache or if I just worked out really hard. My face is so hot or it's been so warm the past few weeks in Los Angeles. So it's just a nice cool down. You can roll it on the back of your neck. And the other thing that's really, really awesome about it is cold therapy now is having more and more research behind it, and it really helps to calm the nervous system. So if I feel my nervous system getting elevated, I'll take out the ice roller and roll it especially really slowly across my forehead, across my third eye area, my temples, my neck, everything, and it just calms everything down. It slows it down, drops me into the present moment. It's such an easy little tool to have in your tool belt at home, and my skin feels amazing from using it. So I highly recommend. It is one of my favorite products from them, and I cannot stop using it. And we have a discount for anyone looking to purchase any of the Bond Charge products, including their blackout eye mask, their sleep glasses, their blue light blocking glasses, and you can use code MAGNETIC, all capital MAGNETIC for 15% off. Or you can go to bondcharge.com/pages/magnetic and receive 15% off your total purchase. Again, that's code MAGNETIC, MAGNETIC. Enjoy. I'm so excited to introduce you guys to this incredible product that is going to be your go-to natural, non-toxic toothpaste moving forward. It is Bites Toothpaste Bits. Now, if you've never heard of a toothpaste bit before, it can be a little strange to move from paste style to bite style. Basically, you bite down, chew a few times, it starts to get foamy, you can brush your teeth. But what I love about this is it is extremely sustainable and reusable, and it is the cleanest way to get your toothpaste. When you have toothpaste in a tube with water, you have to have a bunch of extra additives that aren't really necessary in our toothpaste. And did you know that every single time that you brush your teeth, you swallow 5 to 7% of the toothpaste? That means you're swallowing an entire blob of toothpaste every 7 days. If you have toxins or chemicals or additive things that don't need to be in your body, you're swallowing that and ingesting that every single day. Everyone thinks you rinse your mouth and spit it out, but you're still absorbing that. So this is the cleanest way to have your toothpaste. It is plastic free, completely sustainable. You have a 4-month supply in the subscription, which is incredible. And what I absolutely love about Bite, if you are not someone that likes fluoride in your toothpaste, they do have a fluoride option for you. But if you don't like fluoride in your toothpaste, they have the first natural fluoride with nanohydroxypate. It's a mineral that's been proven to strengthen and restore your pearly whites. It helps remineralize them, fight sensitivity all in one, and it's completely natural and will not irritate things the way that some fluorides do in toothpaste. Most other natural toothpastes I've seen on the market do not have this ingredient at all. And all the other ingredients in there, you can check on their website. They explain why they're in there, what they do, and how they are all natural and helping keep the microbiome of your mouth in a really, really strong place. They also freshen and whiten and brighten your teeth like no other. I am obsessed. You can travel with them so easily. You guys are going to love it. They also have kids options as well. And we have a discount code for 20% off your first order with code TBM. That's all caps TBM. Check out all the things that Bite has to offer between their floss, their mouthwash bits, their toothpaste bits. They have a whitening gel. They have a bamboo toothbrush. They also have incredible deodorant, but I'll talk about that another time. It really is the best way to elevate your tooth game to the next level. Enjoy.
All right, on to the episode.
I am so excited to have Natalie Miles back on the podcast. Welcome, Natalie.
Hello. Thanks for having me back on. I'm excited to chat and see what wants to come through today.
It's so funny because I remember when you were first on listening to your episode with Lacey. I wasn't working at the company yet at the time, and I was commuting in an Uber to work being like, oh, these are the conversations I'm obsessed with. Like, I love this stuff. And it's so full circle. Almost 3 years later, now being at the company and co-hosting the podcast, it's so full circle. So this is just a really, really beautiful moment.
Oh, all in the right timing.
So true. Okay, so there's been a lot of talk of tests and crazy things coming out of the woodwork, sort of our energy really, I mean, kind of how I feel. And I'm so curious what you're seeing and feeling, but it's like this question to destiny. Where are we so not in alignment with what we're supposed to be doing or feeling or acting or putting out in the world? And it's like the universe kind of saying, hey, wake up and let's get on track here.
Oh, that's exactly what's going on. It's a really big transformational time. It's a massive year. I mean, we've been through a lot the last couple of years, and 2022 is really, it's a big test year. The energy theme of the year, the title that came through for me in my channeling was polarity. Even though we're experiencing all these challenges and tests, and as you say, like really being shown like what stays and what goes, we're also seeing really amazing things happening at the same time. And it's about seeing where we sit within the polarity. And July, on the monthly energy theme for July specifically, was the reveal. This month in July, has been revealed to us again around like what stays, what goes, what's important, where are we moving towards. And the energy theme for August is the end stop, which we're really being asked to look at this death rebirth, ending, energy. And again, it all ties into another part of the 2022 energy theme, which is identity and essence. This year in 2022, we're really being asked to look at our identities, like how we show up in the world, what's important, where we're finding the pleasure, the joy, what does our essence mean to us. But as part of that, we're in a bit of an identity crisis / crumbling / what fits, what needs to stay, what needs to go. It's big.
Huge. And it's so interesting because I think of also social media, right? Like that seems to be evolving as well. And you have something like TikTok or Instagram, and it's very branded in the self, in the identity. And so it's almost like, okay, if this is how we're going to communicate with the world through these sort of little portals online, what does that identity look like? And even if someone's not branding themselves for a business purpose, just their life or their passion or what they want to do, like there's such a medium through which they're quote unquote branding that identity. So it makes sense that we're having to really be like, wait, what is really me and what is, the ego or the inauthentic self?
Yeah, and there's no time right now for fake identities. It's being made very clear. You have to be in your values, in your integrity. Again, showing up online, like fake identities are really coming up as well. And we're also feeling who we resonate with, what we resonate with. There's a bigger awareness coming in of the energy that we consume online and how it can distract us or can make us feel out of sorts and not in our own energy and in our own power and in our own essence. So yeah, there's a lot of that. Again, this 2022 energy of change, freedom, liberation, innovation, and of course that showing up of how we show ourselves online.
How do you navigate? I mean, you are constantly channeling and connecting to like a very spiritual realm. How do you navigate setting up sort of those boundaries with yourself on something like social media or on the internet?
Yeah, for me personally, this year I unfollowed every single account that I had on my main personal page because I just didn't want to see the stories or the feed. So for me, that's been an amazing reset where I have taken a break. And now it's just a conscious, when I want to view an account, it's like, oh, I wonder what so-and-so's posted, but it's more of an intuitive hit of who to go and look at versus it being like a constant feed. I've also just been taking social media breaks and just also being really aware of the energy of what I'm viewing. And if it feels off, it's not about not pretending what's happening or what you're seeing, but really being aware of the energy and being like, this doesn't feel aligned for me to watch or view this right now. And knowing that I can create that boundary and saying, nope, this isn't for me, even if it's popular or lots of people are talking about it, and just really creating those energetic boundaries around what I'm consuming. It's been really important for my own personal development, my own business development around that level of seeing what other people are doing. I think it really helps you to stay in your own lane and again, be authentic to you and your vision of what you're creating and what you want to create.
And just a reminder for everyone too, what is your sun, moon, and rising? We usually ask this at the top of the episode, but now I'm like so curious.
I'm a Leo sun.
Oh, Leo season, yes.
Yeah, Leo season, really feeling it. I turned 40 this Leo season too. So it's a big shift, transformation for me into a brand new decade. And I'm a Virgo rise and a Cancer moon.
Oh, love it. So intuitive.
Yeah, it's fascinating. I mean, I love astrology. And for the work that I do and channeling through, it's always amazing when I get messages from astrologers or people who are really into astrology and they're like, Nat, do you know that this is happening? And that, goes with the astrology as well. So I always find that it's really amazing to witness because we're all channeling the same information. It's just from a different source or a different way of reading it, which is just really powerful to acknowledge.
What does reading that information sort of look like for you? I know it's sort of this indescribable energy, but I always like to break things down into practical terms. One of my friends who connects with angel frequencies and reads angel messages, she kind of described it as this triangle of power and sort of energy. And it's like you have that person's angels and her angels, and they're communicating. And then there's that higher self that's able to interpret. So how does it kind of look like or feel like for you, for anyone who's curious in their own exploration into this?
Great question. For me personally, I mean, I do one-on-one sessions, so I channel for individuals, but I also do a lot of collective energy too. So for me, they show me imagery, they show me the themes and the patterns that are coming up. I'll also experience things personally first. I was sometimes up to half a year or a couple of months before it's coming through in the collective. So I've already experienced the energy and it's moved through my body. So I'm then ready to share it. So I sometimes get prepared in advance for what's coming through in the collective so that I can then guide and share what wants to come through. I receive messages and guidance. I experience it through hearing, seeing, knowing. For me, it's just like thoughts in my head that just come in. So it's just, for me, when I'm speaking or thinking or writing, I just kind of go with what wants to be shared. And it is just such a blend of different avenues. When I first started, it was very separate, where I would just see imagery, or I would just hear things, or I would just know the information or the things that wanted to come through. And as I've grown and developed my skills over many years, it's just become like a threaded through line of all the different gifts and skills being woven together into one thing, which has been really amazing to witness myself personally as a transformation. But if you're someone that's listening and you're like, yeah, I feel like I'm getting those collective downloads or those personal downloads, I would say trust how it comes through for you, because we're all different on how we receive information, our intuitive guidance. And it's really important not to compare yourself to others or wish you had more hearing or wish you could see more, but just to play and practice with what you have is really, really important, because by doing that, you're strengthening your gift, which then in turn allows the other threads to come forward.
I think that's such an important note, because everyone's like, okay, it doesn't look like this. I must not have gifts, or I must not have that. And it's so different for everyone. And every single person has their own unique gifts.
Yeah, very much so. And I think it's trusting the subtleties of how it wants to go and how it wants to flow, and trusting again in that energy of what stays and what goes, of really listening to your intuition, especially right now, of what's important and the subtle nuances of what you're being asked to change and listen to, and taking that time to listen to the body. But also there's also this massive pressure of, well, what do you do when you know you're being tested but you're not getting the clarity to move forward?
Yes.
There is so much of that right now, where again, with this identity essence breakdown that we're experiencing in our individual lives and in the collective, as the collective shifts, where we know that change is happening. We know what doesn't feel right. We know we're being tested, but we're not sure what's next. So how do we move forward? And that's coming up for me personally. I know it's coming up in the collective. I know it's coming up in my group sessions and my one-on-one sessions. And I will say that actually the not knowing is part of the knowing. So if you're not feeling that intuitive hit to take action, that's okay. Like, we're in this space right now and in this society where we always feel like we need to be doing or striving or calling in the next thing, and it's all right to sit in that unknown void, in that empty space, even when we know we know we're transforming and changing, but we don't have all the answers, and we're not getting the intuitive hits of what's next.
That's so fascinating, because one of the things I wrote down the other day, just kind of like feeling into everything going on, it feels like, you know, right before a plane lands, it kind of like hovers over the ground, and there's that anticipatory feeling, maybe even tingly in your legs, like, ooh, when's it going to touch the ground? I just want it to land already so I can feel the brakes go on and everything's good. It's like we're in that hovering space right now. And it's like, wait, when are the brakes going down? And like, what terminal are we at? And there's so many questions upon the landing that we're like, how do we just sit and hover for a moment?
Yeah. And that we might not know the terminal, and actually the terminal that we think we've been flying towards actually isn't the terminal anymore. And then when we land, it feels foreign, but it then suddenly all makes sense. And then we look back on the last few months, the last few years, and suddenly it begins to make sense. We can get so fixed on the direction of where we're going, where we're moving towards, what we're creating, that we're not surrendering around what is actually wanting to move through us and where we're being moved to. I feel like a lot of people are moving or shifting careers or changing identities, creating new things, but there's this real energy right now of, you might have an idea, you might have this fixed outcome or idea of where you're going, but actually maybe it's time to just see what really wants to come through. And are you giving yourself that benefit of the doubt? Are you really allowing yourself to release control and be in that gray space? Again, bringing it back to the 2022 energy forecast of polarity. It doesn't have to be black or white. We don't have to live in that space all the time. What happens if we do actually step into that gray area? And what does that mean for our lives? And what do we actually call in and create when we are in the gray?
How do you navigate those phases where maybe we're being tested, we know we need to detox and delegate that part of our life, or we have to say no to that thing? Okay, we can start taking action towards that. We have some pings and some clarity of where it's going to go next. But when we're like, okay, right now is not the moment to take the action or do the thing, there's still that in-between period. Like, how do you navigate that?
Great question. I think I'm trying to learn that myself right now. It's funny because this was part of what was channeled through last year in preparation for this year. And it was about these moments about being in joy, in play, in pleasure, in fun. And that by bringing that into the present moment consistently, it helps us to navigate the unknown and the questioning, and also this connection to creativity and this understanding that we are all creative. And in this space of unknown, actually, sometimes when we give ourselves permission to step into that creativity, whether it is cooking, painting, writing, sewing, knitting, whatever you feel is creative for you personally, it allows us to be okay in the present, and then potentially maybe receive those intuitive hits, downloads, pings of what might be next.
I know for me, sometimes I will wake up in the middle of the night and be like, oh my gosh, this is the thing I have to do. And it's so clear and it feels like such a voice of channel that I have to like take out my notepad and write it down, because I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm going to forget whatever I'm saying because this is the gem.
Yeah, I feel you on that. That happened to me a couple of weeks ago. I got the download for the title for my next book, and it was like 2 a.m. And my guides are like, they just kept repeating it over and over and over and over again. And they were like, are you going to remember this? Are you not going to write this down? Like, please remember this. And it was fascinating. It was 2 a.m. and I was like wired receiving all this info.
Wow. And then once you have that come through, at least for me, I'm trying to navigate how quickly I need to act upon that. Because it'll come through and I'm like, okay, that means I should do it right now. But sometimes it doesn't feel right to do it right now, even though you have all this guidance or peace or whatever it is.
Yeah, I would just say, again, listen to the body, listen to your intuition. You'll know when you need to take action, but it's also about cooling yourself out if you are distracting yourself or you're self-sabotaging yourself. Do you know, there's a really fine energetic line between not taking action because it doesn't feel right versus are you doing it because you're scared of taking that next leap and that faith and taking that action on the intuitive hit that you've received. And so when I got the download for the title of the next book, I'm suddenly like, oh, well, that makes sense, because I then go back and I see like conversations that I've had or things that have happened to me. And I'm like, oh, okay, that makes sense why that happened or that experience happened or that other hit or intuitive download or client session that brought through some information as well that I needed to hear. So I received the intuitive hit in July, but I know in my heart and in my body that I'm not going to start writing until September. So I'm like, okay, cool. I've got the title, but I'm not feeling this urge to get going. I know I'm now in like a preparation phase so that come September, I'm like, okay, let's do this.
That makes so much sense. It's not timeline hopping, but that's kind of what it feels like. You saw this glimpse into the future of what this title will be and what will it look like going out into the world. Okay, let's backtrack. Where are we right now? Let's close the gap.
Yeah, that's completely it. And the timeline hopping is really powerful when we use our intuition and our gifts and our skills to be able to do that. But then it's about not getting stuck in the timeline that you think you're moving towards. So it's really powerful to timeline hop. And I think that's also how I do a lot of channeling and downloads, whether it's in dream state or awake state, of the timeline hopping. But I think my biggest learning of that is you can see the timeline, but also sometimes the other side also have a knack of readjusting it, and that human time isn't the same as spirit time.
It's almost like dropping the control.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, big time. And that's hard to do that. And I think that's also a really big lesson going forward since 2020, as we've been moving forward around what does control mean? What does control mean in the collective? And how do we navigate and move through, you know, a world and a society that has a deeper level of control or is telling us the things that we can and cannot do, and actually still staying in our power and being in that timeline that we've seen for ourselves as well, and seeing what we're creating and moving towards and knowing it still to be true, even though the collective might be telling us otherwise.
I could think of so many just global things of that right now too.
Especially as we move into the back end of 2022, we're going back into eclipse season, October, November, and it's big. It's really big, this back end of the year. And so that's why this being grounded, being in your energy, trusting the timeline is so important right now as we move into the back end of the year.
So I'm quickly interrupting this episode to invite you, if you're ready to start your manifestation journey, or if anything you've heard in our manifestation episodes has piqued your interest to begin. We have a la carte workshops in everything from the basics bundle, which is what we recommend to everyone who starts. It's the formula that actually teaches you how to manifest, unblocked inner child, and unblocked shadow. We also have a la carte workshops on love and money. But the real gem is the Pathway membership, because it encompasses every single workshop we have. It's a year-long membership with full access to the few a la carte offerings we have, and exclusive workshops not available anywhere else, such as the daily practice, which is what everybody in the Pathway uses, hopefully at least 3 times a week to daily, in order to truly create the new neural pathways that one needs in order to manifest, and houses the library of our deep imaginings, which is our unique hypnosis process that allows you to get into your subconscious and overwrite those old neural pathways, creating the new ones. You can use our special code EXPANDED, all caps, EXPANDED, to receive $20 off your first a la carte workshop purchase or $20 off your first month of the pathway. Again, that's all caps, expanded, EXPANDED. Okay, now back to the episode.
Why don't we go, if this works for you, maybe like each month for the end of the year, if there's like a little theme or what sort of energy you see for kind of each month from, let's say, August to December.
August is the end stop. So August is really a time of the endings of lots of things in our lives and whether we're giving ourselves permission to really cross that threshold energy into September and into the new energy of September. September is a really powerful portal month. It bridges the energy of into eclipse season, October, November. September also has equinox, one of my favorite portal months. September is, how do I want to describe it? September, I'm just listening to them now as I'm just going to channel this live versus
Yeah, perfect.
September is basically, will you allow the newness to come in when the world and the collective might be telling you no, when there might be more of a constrictive energy of what wants to come in? Will you drop into your power? Will you say no? September feels a very big boundary month and a very expressive month of what to come. It feels like a very new form of expression where we're being asked to step into these identities in brand new ways. October, obviously we're moving into eclipse season. We've got the US midterms. I just feel like this theme of polarity is going to be really big as we move through the end of the year, where this sense of division is going to be coming through in our collective bigger than ever before. There's a lot to do with specifically around China. I mean, I've been receiving lots to do with China and the South China Sea since 2020. I really feel that that's going to be coming up towards the end of the year. I know a lot of the focus is in other parts of the world, but that is a really big space. Resources has been a really big thing this year. And I feel like that energy of resources, of what we have or how we're extracting things, and supply chain has been very big. It came through in last year that this supply chain was going to be really big in 2022. And I feel like the supply chain energy is really going to heat up as we move through into October and November. How it just feels is we're in this kind of respite period before there might be more confusion, more chaos, more heightened things in the collective to do with politics and the environment. But within turn of that, we have to bring it back to ourselves, bring it back to what's important, bring it back to the joy, bring it back to the pleasure, bring it back to the essence. Because one of the main channeled insights that I'm getting is that we're being prepared for war. And that's a really big statement to say. And I'm sharing that not out of doom and gloom, because it's not about that. It's about awareness. It's about preparedness. It's about an understanding, but also knowing that you can still be you, you can still create, you can still go for your dreams and your visions, even though things are happening on a wider collective. But I really feel that we're beginning to look and see around what communities are important. Where do we want to be? Where are we going? It's really interesting to see how we're being prepared along the way without us even realizing.
Wow.
It's a really big time between now and 2026, 2027. But as part of that, it's about also not allowing things to distract us. There's a lot of distractions right now in the collective to take you off center, to take you off balance, to take you out of your energy, to make you feel tired and zapped and drained and that you can't do the things that you want to do. And so energy management right now to navigate what's happening in the collective is so important, and noticing where we are with our energy and what takes us out of our energy, and and really listening to our intuition around what we feel is a distraction.
What I'm thinking too is, okay, there's a big shift coming collectively. There might be a lot of activating things that could be coming collectively. There's a lot of shifts we need to have in the world, even on our planet, to live in homeostasis with the planet in which we live. And so we know, some big things are going to have to change in order for that to be sustainable going forward. So it makes sense that as a collective, we're going to face some big, tough things. But kind of the message for the individual I'm hearing from this too is like, yes, all of those things are coming and we are going to have to face that. And we are going to have to figure out how to navigate in a way that is better for everyone. And at the same time, don't get so overtaken with the emotional roller coaster that you lose your specific purpose and your specific joy and what you're here for. Honestly, because if we lose that, that might be the thing that is going to help us. Someone's destiny and purpose might be finding something out for climate change or finding a more sustainable way to do this or, whatever it is, bringing joy to the people who are really in an elevating job role and have to face that. And then they come up with the grounding technique for their body. Like, who knows what your gift is and what your purpose is. Don't lose that, because whatever yours is, we need that right now.
Completely. Very much so, because what you're being asked to do is, it's funny because it was a quote that comes from my book that I wrote back in 2020 about how to connect to your intuition. And the last chapter of the book is all about intuition in the collective. And it's really fascinating to read that last chapter back and see where we're moving through in the world. But one of the statements that came through very loud was, you don't need to know the specifics of your impact. You being you is all that's required. When we truly understand that we're part of something that's greater than ourselves and that each and every one of our lives has the power to bring about positive change just by being us, that ripples out. And that's why it's really important, if you are going through this, identity change, or you're being called to do something else, or you are really feeling the need to follow a passion, or you're calling in something new and you're not sure what it is yet, but you know that you're on the cusp of a really big change, keep going. Because we're all, it sounds cheesy, but we are all on this planet for a reason at this time. And sometimes with everything happening, it can make us feel like change isn't possible, or that we don't have an impact, or that we are just a tiny speck and that whatever we do doesn't make a difference. But it does. And so the conversations that you're having with your friends, your family members, your communities, the community of the expanded community, and in the To Be Magnetic community, it's really important because that's creating change.
A lot of times people ask us, like, how do I navigate these tests? And what do I do? Like, I'm being so pushed to my limits here. It's so important to remember the intention and the outcome of moving through those hard times is connecting with a truer version of yourself, connecting with your joy, connecting with all of those aspects. When you are facing the hardest tests, seeing the love and the joy and the internal freedom on the other side of that, and knowing that you can move through it, I think helps navigate through those tricky times.
Big time. And there's a lot of ancestral healing that's going on right now, like a hell of a lot of ancestral healing for the collective, but also individually, where we're seeing our roles in relationships, we're seeing our roles within our families and the ancestors that have come before us, where we're being asked to see things differently, to do things differently, to remember also for some things how our ancestors did come together, or they did learn and evolve in different ways. So there's this very deep protection, I want to say, from our ancestors too, as we're navigating these times through this big ancestral healing that's happening.
How can someone maybe tap into some of that wisdom from their ancestors if a lot of them have passed, or they don't have family that can kind of share some of the wisdom that they wanted to be passed down?
For me personally, I mean, I recommend it's kind of like a golden bridge exercise where you can take yourself to a place that you feel is a sanctuary for you. So, a happy place or a place that you like to go to in meditation. And then you can imagine a golden bridge and you imagine if there's a specific ancestor that you want to speak to or a specific loved one that you want to connect to, you invite them into their energy to cross over the bridge and you visualize yourself walking across the bridge as they walk towards you. Or if there isn't anyone specific that you want to connect to, but you just want to connect to your ancestral energy, set that intention, ask, you can say it out loud or in your head, call your ancestors forward and say, I'd like the ancestral energy to step forward. I'd like to connect with you to receive any information that I'd like to receive. When the energy comes forward, you can imagine your hand touching their heart and their hand reaching out and touching yours and having that energy connection, and then just being open to seeing what comes through. It might come through where you want to write it down. It might come through as just a feeling. It might come through as a knowing. You might see things, but then you can ask questions of the energy. I'm always a fan of interacting and asking more of the energy of like, well, what do I need to learn right now? Or am I breaking free from? And making it an interactive experience. A couple of years ago, I put out a Heal Your Ancestor Story workshop, which basically guides you through that, where you get to look at the ancestor story and what we're carrying from our ancestor stories, from money to relationships to self-worth, business, on lots of different levels. But I love the Golden Bridge as a kind of instant gateway to doing that yourself and bringing them forward.
Oh, that's so helpful. Because I think there is so much wisdom ancestrally. And then also knowing, like you were saying, breaking those patterns. What were the shadows, the core wounds? What was the trauma that was sort of embedded both in the body and in the physical and the spiritual from our ancestors that continued on, generation after generation? And how can we be that stopgap? How can we end that cycle with us and begin a new cycle and a healing cycle going forward?
Yeah, very much so, especially as the systems and the structures of our collective break down and change and evolve and adapt. We're being asked to look at that ourselves personally, to look at the familial systems, of where we're at and what we're moving through. We're part of that change and transformation.
I know one thing that definitely for empaths out there, people who feel like very spiritually sensitive or emotionally sensitive, when there are these big collective things happening, the sensitivity of being out in the world feels so intense, like overwhelming. You're like the person passing you on the street, you're like, oh my God, I feel them so intensely right now. Like it's just so powerful. Do you have any, especially as more collective, I guess, like wounding and healing comes up throughout the year, any tips for how to energetically like take that power and turn it back in and maybe even protect ourselves when we're out in the world to keep our energy safe?
You can put yourself in like an energetic bubble. I imagine like a bubble going over my head all the way under my toes that has like that has tiny holes in it, that so you can receive the awesome energy in and give your energy out where you want to and do it that way. I'll do my own energy clearings, whether it's smoke clearing, smudging, sound, music, salt baths. I'm also really aware of the news I'm reading, social media, the conversations that I'm having, family members, friends. And again, that like having that confidence to create the energetic boundaries and also saying no. I think saying no is really, really important as you navigate through these times, and just also honoring if you feel tired, honoring if you're being called to rest and recharge that day because there's a lot going on, honoring the grief, honoring the feelings of grief and sadness as we move through what's coming is also really important, and honoring where the body's at, but also asking yourself, is this energy mine or does this belong to somebody else's? And for me personally, being, highly sensitive and empath, feeling lots of things, sometimes I can suddenly be taken out. I'll have a weird headache, or I'll feel like a pulling on the top of my head, or something else going on in my body that comes from nowhere that I'm like, well, hang on a second, this is not mine. I identify like, who is it? Is there someone around me, friendship group, family member, social group, social media? Is it something I've read? Is it something from the collective? And I actually ask the energy to leave. So I'll also do tapping. I'll tap it out of my body. And a lot of the time when I've identified who it is and I've asked it to go, and I cut the energy cord and send it back the other way of the person or whatever I've taken on that's plugged in, that actually normally gets rid of it. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool. I feel like me again. If you're sensitive, it's sometimes about, we can take it on as ourselves where we think it's all ours, when it's about growing skills and awareness of understanding what's not yours.
Oh, that's such a useful tip, because I know there's so many empathic, intuitive, highly sensitive people in the community as well. And I'm sure that's going to be a very important thing to do over the next couple of months for sure.
And getting out in nature, moving the body. It doesn't have to be anything big. Yeah. And I know Lacey loves her biomat. I love my biomat. My biomat has been a game changer on resetting my energy.
It's so funny. My fiance sent me a little meme today, and it was this guy asking, like, universe and God, is this my biggest battle, my biggest test? Are you testing me again? And the universe was like, no, you just need to put your phone down and go outside.
Yeah, right.
It's like you need those little things that make such a shift.
And sometimes it's, when we're in those spaces, it can feel like climbing up a mountain, and that's, oh gosh. And then when we're there, like, oh, why didn't I do this sooner?
Is there any other messages coming through for the end of the year or going into next year? Anything you think everyone should know?
I think it's just the innovation continues. And so it's about really feeling into where you want to innovate your life and where you're moving towards and what that looks like. And honor what's coming up for you, honor the body, honor your intuition, and know that you are making an impact. And around money is just really important as well. There's going to be a lot of fear mongering around money through into the back end of 2022 and into 2023. Again, with inflation and rising prices and the intensity of what that looks like, there's a lot of thriving to be done within that space as well. And so we're really looking at our money stories and what's important around our values around money. And when the world is saying that everything is shrinking, there is going to be a lot of expansion going down as well, and innovation around money.
That's so important to reemphasize too, because we always say that with manifestation. No matter what is happening, you can always be manifesting. You can always be expanding. Like even, there's a lot of fear in the housing market, and arguably, yeah, people are having very high housing prices and all of those things, but people are still able to find their dream home that's within their budget. I'm still seeing stories of that happening out there. So it's really about finding that expansion, finding the person that is connecting with their authentic, whatever they are looking for, and it happening despite, all of the fear that it's not even worth trying.
Yeah. And also, if you're getting that intuitive hit not to buy, that's okay too, because actually, if it's not coming up for you, the right thing isn't coming up, or you're getting that intuitive hit not to invest right now, it's also honoring that, and then knowing that was, and trusting that was the right timing and the right path for you to be on, that it will make sense, that, hey, maybe you might be buying at the top and give it a couple of years and you might be buying at the bottom. So it's that honoring your own intuition, and that we can sometimes force a manifestation to happen because we really, 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 really want to happen. But our whole intuitive body is like, hold off, hold off, hold off. Yes, we know this is on your list. We know that this is what you really want, but can you trust the timing of this instead of forcing it through? Because there's something better coming, or a different location, a different house, situation might change, but also you might just save yourself, $400,000 or more.
Yes, absolutely. That's such a good point too. Really knowing when to lean into that surrender and do the preparedness, like we were saying at the top of the episode. in that phase between, you know what's happening, you know what's coming in the future, you know where you're at now. How can you sit with that in between period and find joy in that period as well?
Yeah, even when it feels like, oh my God, this is the most uncomfortable thing I've ever gone through. And, I really want this to happen now. We shift of what we desire, our values, our identities. What you might want now might be different in a couple of months or 6 months. And that what you're calling on or manifesting might change. And so it's honoring that too.
Okay, so I have a selfish question, but I've been getting the ping that I don't know if it's my spirit guides or my grandma or someone's been wanting to communicate a message, and they kept saying Natalie's on the podcast. This is the timing to come through. If you're open to it, if anything comes through, feel free to share it because they just kept saying, and even last night, I have this one sort of hanging thing in my room and it kept rattling and it never rattles. And the air was on. So it probably, my fiance is it was just blowing in the air. And I was like, no, I feel like they're saying we're close. We're ready to share something with you. So I'm just keeping the door open in case anything comes through.
It's really interesting because you're talking and they've started with an image. So for me, they sometimes give me an image first as a springboard that then allows me to go into what they want to say. They were showing it to me as a bow, like a perfect bow on the top of a present. And they're saying that you're so focused on going for the bow on top of the present, the final touch where everything is there and everything is done. But actually, the next 4 months, you need to be prepared to get messy and that the bow might get undone, but that you will receive the present with the gift, with the bow tied perfectly. But that right now, it's not about focusing on the bow because you're going to be communicating in brand new ways with your voice and your words. And that this is something that you need to trust what is moving through you, because I feel like you are getting the hit to create something that's yours, that's separate from expanded. And it's really important that you listen and take the time out to create what you want to create for you.
Oh my gosh, yes. Well, just to give context, to that piece, I've been getting hits to share more on social media and TikTok in specific. And in the middle of the night, it'll be say this, this, and this. This is the story you're going to tell. This is what you're going to share, all of those things. And I'm okay. And so a lot of my unblocking work is okay, can I be seen in a different way? Can I be seen on a different platform? What would that feel like? What is that voice working through all those blocks? But the other day, I just quickly got the ping to record this little silly video about doing a deep imagining, sharing something I love. And my inner perfectionist was if I just filmed it this way, it would have looked cleaner. It doesn't look professional. I should do it this way. And so that's the bow. The bow is I'm looking for everything to look professional, quote unquote, whatever that means.
Yeah. And they're actually saying by you getting messy, you're actually showing more of your authentic self, which actually is going to mean that you're going to be vibrating at a bigger frequency, which then is going to attract more people and more views because it is messy. Don't get stuck in that polarity of perfect, non-perfect. It's about being in that messy gray space, and that actually that's the space that you really want to be in right now.
Wow. Okay. That brings so much clarity. So much clarity. Because I'm I can't, I'm not an expert at this yet. And I think I'm waiting for that expert piece. And now it's okay, no. You're going to be messy. That's how this is going to look. And that's how it's going to go. And eventually you'll get good at it. But it's being a novice. And I bet this applies to a lot of people right now if they're switching. They're learning a new skill, they're doing a new job, who knows? You kind of have to be the novice first, see what that feels like without being the pro yet.
Completely. And the irony is that the minute you become a pro, you'll be on to the next thing of being the novice.
100%.
I'm excited for you. It feels really, really expansive and you're being pushed. They're asking you to, again, that like cross the threshold, you know, that end stop moment where it's like, okay, are we doing this? Let's do this.
That's exactly it. Oh my gosh, so powerful. Well, it's so funny too, because I love your monthly energy forecasts on your podcast. I think a friend shared it in April, I want to say. And so many things were shifting, and it was kind of like, okay, I have to like reevaluate this part of my life and this aspect. And I think that was the breakdown month. That was the theme. And everything you said was so spot on. I was like, is she reading my mind? This is insane. And every month since, it's been spot on. So I highly recommend, please, please check this out. It's so good. We'll link it in the show notes.
And it's so funny that you say that because part of my end stop is that I'm stopping my podcast and I'm actually starting as a YouTube channel as of September. So I've been podcasting for the last 5 years, and part of the reveal for July, which was something I wasn't expecting, and it was that I got the intuitive hit that I needed to end my podcast and set it up as a YouTube channel. So as of September, the energy forecasts will be done as videos.
I love that. I think that's brilliant. It does feel like I had to like go seek it out more on the podcast app for some reason, but I feel like the ease of access, it'll just reach more people, especially seeing it in person, I think is going to feel so powerful.
Yeah, thank you. That's the hit that I've been getting. It's that like new audience. They keep just saying, mix up the platform, and that it's going to open something up. And so I'm like, it's time to put a face to it, Natalie. It can't just be the words.
I mean, Leo sun, hello.
Exactly.
Yes. Oh my gosh, that's so beautiful. So where else can people find you, connect with you? What are you loving sharing right now? What are you working on? All of that fun stuff.
Yeah, I'm on Instagram. I am Natalie Miles. I've been doing a lot more poetry and writing recently, which I've been loving. I've got my Substack too, which I'm going to be sharing more writing and poetry, especially as I'm diving deep into writing a fiction book. So my last book was nonfiction called You're Intuitive, Trust Your Truth, Take Back Your Power. So that's a great way in. If you're really looking to connect with your intuition, my book guides you through how to connect to your intuition and why we need it now for these changing times. I've also been loving, I've set up this energetic container called the Business Liberation, and it's all about how we're changing and evolving our careers, our businesses, and how we work with our soul gifts through these changing times and what that means. So it's basically a 6-week series which I'm guiding people through, and I've been loving that as well.
We will link all of this in the show notes to connect and follow. And one question that just came to me at the end too, because I think we get this a lot as well. What is sort of your way of discerning between an intuitive ping and someone's anxiety or fear projecting out? People get very confused between those two because they might feel like a quick hit of insight, but they're not quite sure how to discern the two.
Great question. The intuitive hit will come in, it will give you the information, and it will disappear. And the anxiety, ego, fear-based mind will come in, and it will feel like chatter, and it will go round and round and round in your head. The intuitive hit will come in and it will feel more authoritative. It will have a different tone. It's important to remember that it will sound like your voice. I think sometimes we feel like it will sound different or be different. I also listen to what's been going on in my life or my day when I'm getting that intuitive hit, as in, was I feeling anxious, or was there other things going on in my life that is feeding into me feeling like it's not an intuitive hit versus my anxiety as well. There's lots of different ways, but the easiest one is the intuitive hit will come in and then it will disappear.
So easy to differentiate when you look at it through that lens. So smart.
Yeah, and just honoring the intuitive body and taking that time out to listen to the body, it can be very subtle around how it moves through our body. So when we create that time and space, it allows us to listen to what the body wants to communicate.
Thank you so much, Natalie. This has been so expansive and such a beautiful conversation. And I am so excited to continue to listen to the energy forecasts on YouTube going forward.
I know, I'm excited too. I was like, oh my God, this is actually happening. We're doing this. And it feels so good.
Oh, thank you so much. And we'll see you next time, guys. Bye.
Thank you so much for tuning into the episode, and I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did, we did. And in case you're not totally ready to join the pathway yet, I wanted to share a few of our free offerings that I'll often suggest to people as a little bit of a blueprint to get them started on their manifestation journey. The first place I like to direct people completely for free is the motivation. You can see it linked below or on our homepage as our testimony library. And it's categorized by different subjects, whether you're calling in career, money, love, wellness, and much more. When you're reading about a member's experience of what they manifested, you're actually seeing to believe and showing your subconscious that that very thing is possible for you. The second place I like to direct people is to the free clarity exercise, which is also linked below. In it, you get to try our own unique hypnosis process, learn about the science, and some journaling prompts. And the best part about this, you'll get a tiny taste of what it's like to go into your hypnotic state, bring your subconscious forward, and create new neural pathways while receiving clarity. And the third thing, if you haven't listened to it on this podcast yet, please go back to the episode titled Manifestation 101, where you'll learn the basics of neural manifestation to truly understand this process. So go ahead and check out those free resources, the motivation, the free clarity exercise, and the episode Manifestation 101, all linked below. And in an effort to make sure to have representation in this process series, go ahead and submit any process testimonials you have, especially to our LGBTQ+ community, our BIPOC, as well as the Ys, which is anyone in the community who is 45 and over. All right, we'll be back next week.